Alright, today I'd like to do something a little different. I'm going to teach and demonstrate how to make lard. Lard is basically rendered pig fat. So what we have here is what you call pig fat. My son gets from a local butcher. If you ever want to do this, just go down to your local butcher, ask them. If they tell you it's a lot of trouble, don't worry about it, go to another butcher. But so you just go down to the butcher and say, look, I'd like to get some pig fat and would like to make my own lard. I wouldn't personally trust the lard at shopping centres and stuff, and supermarkets, because it's not always the lard that you'd really prefer. And you also, this way you know what's in it. Alright, it doesn't always come in blocks like this. Sometimes it comes in huge blocks, something like that, or bigger or smaller, depends on your butcher. And from there you cut it up. Now what you try to do, you freeze it, is one of the best things to do, and as that makes it much more easier to cut up. Okay, you don't want it that solid you can't cut it, of course. So if you've left it in a few days in the freezer and it's gotten rather solid, you might have to allow it to defrost a little. Okay, and you can cut lard up into large chunks, or you can cut it into smaller pieces, or you can even put it through a grinder and get it into fairly small pieces as if you minced it. Okay, so you can use all different sorts of chopping methods to get it down. One of the reasons why, and you'll see later, why I don't cut it into too small pieces or grind it down into mince is because the leftover little pork fat bits can actually be used in salads. It can just be eaten as a snack. You can do all sorts of things with it. But if you are trying to get as much fat out as you can, and that's specifically what you're after, well, I would suggest mincing it. Also, you'll find mincing the fat tends to get more fat out. Wouldn't be a lot more, but some more. So it just depends what you're actually aiming at. Now I've got over here a large pot. You can use slow cookers, you can use saucepans, big cast iron containers, whatever you like, to cook with. So it really depends what you got. Don't get too fussy. Just find something suitable to cook with. You have to cook over a bush fire out in the scrub. That's Australian for bush, if you're wondering. Not something you do with a brush in this type of thing. Alright, I'll just start moving it over. Alright, just grab your fat, stick him in. Okay, got a little more to cut up yet. Alright, one of the things you want to do is something about this amount. Put in approximately a cup of water, it really depends. The purpose for the water is to prevent from burning the pig fat. The process for rendering lard from pig fat is basically The idea is to get fat and melt it down until it's basically nothing but fat. I would certainly recommend this for those doing a ketogenic diet. I tend to promote that. I think it's a good diet. Fat has been demonized quite too much over the years by those who've got something to profit by it. And it's funny how we're getting more and more away from fat, saturated fats, animal foods, and our society is getting sicker. One has to wonder. I don't think change of diet is the only reason though. There's more to that, people getting sick, than just diet. Although it would be a major reason. Right. Rendering pig fat takes quite a few hours. Don't start it late in the afternoon or you'll be up all night. That's alright if you're going to be anyway. But if you're going to do it, start early morning, don't go any later than mid-morning, because it's going to take you quite a few hours. If you have a very large batch of pig fat, it might be best to start when the birds get up in the morning, and start then, because it will take a while. Okay, the amount I've got today will take me probably until 8 o'clock tonight at a guess. Alright, now we'll just add a little more water just to the pot. And remember, the purpose of the water is that it prevents it from boiling. Such a large pot of pig fat, all the heat will be right down the bottom there and cooking away, and eventually burn it, and you won't get the nice clean fresh lard that most people are looking for. For instance, using it in pies and pastries. Alright, so you just get that on, start her up. What I do, I first get the pot heated up pretty quickly, so as to get the whole process going. Then once the heat is really applied and going, I move it across to a smaller burner and just have it on a low simmer for the rest of the day. That way you don't burn it there, because all you're trying to do is melt the little bits of fat that are in between all the structural material there that the body makes to support the fat. Okay, you're just trying to render it out, bring it out. Okay, now what we'll do, we'll leave that for a little while now, and come along and stir it up. You get a good old wooden spoon, doesn't have to be wooden, it can be metal, you're not dealing with fermented products here, and keep stirring it in. And remember, as it gets to a good heat, put it down to a lower heat. The only reason I turn it up to a high heat, remember, is just to get the thing moving, as we haven't got all our lies to render pig fat. Okay, so we'll leave it there and we'll be back to you shortly. Howdy folks. Alright, we've just been about another 10-20 minutes later, and you can see how it's lost the pink. Pink is coming out and it's turning to a sort of a off-white. Would probably be the way what you would assume a fat colour would look like. So you just come along and stir that up. Now, one of the main things to do with rendering lard is that you just need to keep an eye on it. You just need to say, all right, I just stirred it half an hour ago or whatever, and I better get back to it. Okay, just a little handy hint. See those little bits like that look a bit squiggly, you could say. When you finally finish and turn them into little pork bits, they're the nice ones. Okay, so just as you're cooking this stuff, keep an eye out for it, so when you're finished you can get all the yummy bits out of it. Okay, as you can see, the liquid is already starting to come out, form there. I'll just show you that. Now at this stage, of course, that's a mixture of both water and fat. Okay, but eventually, as it simmers away, as you can see all this steaminess floating around here, our own homemade fog, it'll all lift off eventually and be nothing but pure fat in the end. So what we're going to do later on, just for demonstration purposes, normally I will just render it right through. At the end of the night, I'll filter it out, put it in a container, and then put it in the fridge. Okay, but what we're going to do this time is a little different. As we're most of the way along, we'll actually take some fat off, because that fat is clearer and more whiter. And if you really want to get into pastries and you don't want any piggy flavour in your pie, unless you're making pig pie, I suppose, you know, you're making blueberry pie, whatever, apple pie, you don't really want any piggy flavour in that. So for those who want to do that, or if you want to render pig fat to produce lard, then to produce soap, then you might want that clear smelling, fresher looking soap. Alright, so we'll leave that there now, and we'll come back in a little while. As you're going along, you need to lower the heat. Alright, we've had this on high heat for a little while now. She's well and truly on its way if you want to save money and energy. So we'll just start the other little back burner here. Just getting going. It's a bit of a rebel, this one. Alright, just make sure that's going. Alright, turn the other one off and just move it over. Alright, now you don't really need it that high, just as demonstration. We'll just turn it down. You only need a little flame like that. The only thing you got to watch with a little flame is if you have a breezy, windy place and a gust of wind, it'll actually blow the flame out while you're not looking. Alright, so just as you keep checking and stirring each half hour, 3/4 an hour or so, depends how you want to do it, you just check the flame, because sometimes they do go out. Okay, so we're just going to put that back there now, and it's going to be a slow process for the rest of the day. Not a hard process, just where you got to monitor it. Alright, it's about 3 hours later, and what we're going to do is drain off some of the fat so we can get a really clean white fat. You can see, if I could just try to carefully pull it down, it's not so white as it was earlier, as I demonstrated. The water is basically, by this stage, boiled off. Okay, it looks like a gelatinous blobby mass with a lot of oil around it. Okay, so we're going to start tipping this off. Now I've got a colander here with a steel container. Whatever you do, don't use a plastic colander. Once you've done that, it will no longer be a plastic colander, it'll be a plastic blob, okay? Because oil is very, very hot. So always stick at this stage with steel. Okay, so we just want to pour it carefully off. Make sure you don't splash too much. Remember, oil is very, very hot and will burn very badly too. So we just try and do that. You don't have to get it all off. Okay. You can see I probably haven't stirred it probably quite enough. A little bit of stuff stuck to the bottom. That's not contagious or serious, but it's preferably not to do that. Okay, we'll just put that back on there. Try and get the oil out of that. Now you don't have to do it at this stage, you can wait a little bit longer if you wanted to. Just try and fat out of it. Oil. Okay. Just move that over so we don't make a mess. And my wife kills me. Okay, let me just chip that back into there. Okay, there we go. If you want to have a look at what it looks like, it doesn't look white, but once that solidifies and you put it in the fridge, it'll be quite white. Okay, that's the sort of one you'd want to use for your crusty bit on your pie. Okay, so we just give that another little stir and wait a few more hours. Okay, this is a good thing to do on a cold day to keep your house warm. We shall have it running throughout the day. Okay, so we'll leave that there and then we'll come back in a few hours time. That shows you what's happening, what it should look like. It looks a bit like onions boiling away in there a little bit, but that's all that liquid there is oil floating around inside there. You can see the bits that are more whitish, they're nowhere near done yet. They can take out a lot more oil out of them at this stage. You can see the bits that are a little more darker, most of the oil has already come out of that. It's not real easy to separate them really. So you can see there's a very, very fresh bit just there. It's almost as if it hasn't begun rendering at all. Okay, so I thought I'd do another pour, a little separation, so that at the end of this video you can see the various different colours that have come out. Just pour it carefully. Remember, it's very hot. It will splash a little, and it therefore will hurt. So just a bit of safety there. Remember that you're dealing with very hot stuff. You can see the stuff starting to stick on the bottom there. If you stir it very regularly, constantly, all the time, you'll prevent that. But most of us haven't really got the time to do that, so I don't get too worried. It does come off eventually. Alright, just get that out. You can see a little bit's probably burnt on there, but that's not a big issue. Just try and get all that oil out of there. Now you don't have to do what I'm doing here, separating at certain batches. You can let this cook right through the whole day into the early evening, and it's just fine. That's how I normally do it. But if you want maybe a little better tasting pastries, this is the way you got to go about it. I'm just showing it this way for those who want to do that. Otherwise you tend to avoid that. But this does show an update, what things are looking like, and you know whether you're on the right track. Now, if you notice, I've got some cloths underneath the pot. Remember, it is very, very hot. The heat will go straight through and into your bench. Just get that back in. Watch it doesn't splatter. Alright. Now that will do for now. And we'll do an update further on this evening. Alright, we're just about at the end of our rendering of the fat, and I just want you to have a look at that. You can see there's not really much activity going on in there. That tells you you're just pretty well done. You can see a little bit of business going on there, bubbling away. And if you just have a quick look at that one, there's still a little bit of fat hiding underneath there somewhere. But if you just see it, as I'm scraping it around there, it's pretty well all brown now. There's a few lighter bits there, but it's basically done. So when you get to that stage, if that's all you want to do is render fat, you're done. Alright, so you turn the gas off and then pour it out. Use a metal colander, as I said earlier. And you just drag all that out. You can eat this stuff, so it's not a waste. Okay. Try to get it what you can. Now this colander won't take all those tiny little crumbs out. It'll take the big chunky bits out, but it won't take the fine bits out. You'll need a smaller one to do that with. Alright, I'll just try and get some fat out of there. These are nicer as you get the fat out of them. You can actually at this stage draw the fat out of it, say by putting it on some paper to soak up the oil, or, and then I should say, then you can put some Himalayan salt on, and they're quite nice, warm like that. Okay, and these are the nice bits, chewy bits like that. Sort of go a little bit firmer. I can't. But the bits that look like, I don't really know how to describe them. All right, so we can just take that out. Try and get all the fat out of it and the oil out of it. That's what you're doing it for. Okay, just put that aside. Drip there. Hopefully this won't break the bottle with its heat. This is a type of sieve filter. Alright, I'm just saving these because I want to show you the different colours that you can get as you go further and further on. It's not really essential, as I said earlier, but it depends what you're trying to aim for. Okay, now what we can do while that's cooling off, there's the paper for trying to soak up the oil. Try and pull the oil out. The more oil you pull out, the quite nicer they are. Alright, we best just let that sit just for a little while. Draw the oil out. Then we can put that in the oven for a little bit and bake it, and we'll see what we come out with then. Okay, so we'll leave it there just for a little while and then we'll come back again. Now I've just put these in the oven for around about 20-25 minutes. It depends what you want to do, on a dry sort of a heat, and I put toweling paper underneath there to try and soak as much oil out as there as possible. You don't have to do that, but some people prefer it to be a little bit more lighter and crispy. So what you can do now is add a little salt when the container's ready. Just give it a sprinkle all over, mix it in. Basically salt to your preferred taste. If you like it a little more salty, put a little more salt on. If you don't like it very salty, don't put so much on. Do a little taste test. Maybe a fraction more. Alright. Now you can serve that up as is right now. It's quite nice, warm. It's like eating crunchy bits of KFC or something. Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't get sued for saying that. But yeah, it's quite nice. Now you can use this on salads, you can just eat it as a simple snack if you're hiking or something. Remember, fat is energy, it's calories, it's kilojoules, and therefore provides you with the energy in your day-to-day business. Store it in a simple container to keep it dry. If you want to, you can put it in the fridge, and away you go. I wouldn't leave it too long personally. For instance, the lard, that's an early batch. When you've made it, you store it in the fridge, just like you would any fat of that sort that you'd get from the supermarkets. And it lasts quite a long time. Now, I don't know whether you can see any difference there. Depends how good the light is. But this one here was the first one. It's got quite a light white to it, and this one here has got a slightly creamy white to it, more so. It's not a perfect white, of course, but that's the first batch we took out, and this is the second batch we took out. Alright, they're both fine, but one will have a bit more stronger flavour than what you would normally have.